Why did my girlfriend believe her therapist friend instead of calling 911 when I started having seizures? The first seizure hit me during dinner at Kara's apartment. One moment I was cutting into chicken parmesan, and the next, my entire body locked rigid, and I crashed sideways out of my chair onto the hardwood floor. My jaw clenched so tight, I bit through my tongue and blood filled my mouth. I could hear Kara screaming my name, but I couldn't respond because every muscle in my body was contracting violently and involuntarily. The convulsions slammed my head against the floor repeatedly, and I felt my consciousness fragmenting into jagged pieces. Through the chaos, I heard Kara on the phone with someone saying, "He's having some kind of episode, what should I do?" And a female voice responding calmly from the speaker. Kara's friend Simone was a therapist who specialized in trauma and anxiety disorders, and apparently that made her qualified to diagnose neurological emergencies over FaceTime. Simone's voice came through steady and authoritative, explaining that I was probably experiencing a panic attack manifesting as psychogenic, non-epileptic seizures. She said these episodes looked dramatic but weren't dangerous, and that calling an ambulance would just traumatize me further by reinforcing the belief that something was physically wrong. Kara asked if she should call 911 anyway because I was bleeding from my mouth and wasn't responding. Simone said the blood was probably from biting my cheek during the episode, and that I needed to be allowed to come out of it naturally without interference. The seizure lasted maybe 90 seconds but felt infinite. When it finally stopped, I lay on the floor completely disoriented with no memory of falling or convulsing. My muscles ached and my head throbbed, and I could taste copper in my mouth. Kara knelt beside me with her phone still on speaker, and Simone's voice asking how I was doing. I tried to say I needed a hospital, but my words came out slurred and confused. Simone explained to Kara that post-episode confusion was normal with psychogenic seizures, and that I needed calm reassurance rather than medical intervention. She said taking me to the ER would validate what she called my catastrophic thinking patterns and make future episodes more likely. Kara helped me onto the couch while Simone walked her through grounding techniques and breathing exercises. I kept trying to explain that something was seriously wrong, but Kara kept saying, "It's okay, you're safe, you just had a panic attack." The way she said it with such certainty made me doubt my own perception. Maybe I was having panic attacks that felt like seizures. Maybe I was being dramatic, but the rational part of my brain knew that panic attacks didn't make you convulse and lose consciousness and bleed from biting through your own tongue. I insisted on going to the hospital, but Kara said Simone had advised against it. She explained that Simone had seen dozens of clients with psychogenic seizures and knew exactly how to handle them. I asked what qualified a therapist to diagnose neurological conditions, and Kara got defensive, saying Simone had years of clinical experience and specialized training in somatic symptoms. I pointed out that somatic symptoms were psychological manifestations, not actual seizures, and Kara accused me of being resistant to mental health treatment. The argument went in circles until I was too exhausted to keep fighting. Kara made me chamomile tea and put on a nature documentary while Simone stayed on the phone giving instructions about monitoring my anxiety levels. I fell asleep on the couch and woke up 3 hours later feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. Every muscle hurt, and my head felt like it was splitting open. Kara was asleep in her bedroom, and her phone was charging on the kitchen counter. I considered calling an Uber to take myself to the ER, but I could barely stand without my legs shaking. I took 4 ibuprofen and went back to sleep, telling myself I'd go to a doctor in the morning if I still felt bad. The second seizure happened 5 days later while I was at work. I was a software engineer at a mid-sized tech company, and I'd been in a meeting with my team when suddenly my vision tunneled, and I felt an overwhelming sense of dread wash over me. I tried to excuse myself, but before I could stand, my body went rigid again, and I collapsed forward onto the conference table. My coworkers later told me I convulsed for over 2 minutes while they called 911 and tried to keep me from hitting my head on the table edge. I have no memory of any of it. I woke up in an ambulance with a paramedic asking me questions I couldn't quite process. They took me to County General, where doctors ran a CT scan and blood tests and started me on IV fluids. The ER physician said I'd had a tonic-clonic seizure and needed to see a neurologist immediately for further evaluation. She asked if I'd had any previous episodes, and I told her about the seizure at Kara's apartment 5 days earlier. The doctor's expression turned serious, and she asked why I hadn't come to the hospital after the first one. I explained that my girlfriend's friend, who was a therapist, had said it was just a panic attack. The doctor said that was dangerously incorrect advice, and that untreated seizures could indicate brain tumors, strokes, infections, or epilepsy. Kara arrived at the hospital an hour later, looking upset and scared. She asked what had happened, and I explained about the seizure at work and what the ER doctor had said. Kara immediately called Simone on speakerphone right there in the hospital room. Simone's voice came through calm and slightly condescending. Then she said, "To see the full story, click the link below or go on my channel."